transmissible but is less likely to cause severe infection.
Yung bagong strain na ito, no, actually, mas dumidikit siya sa upper respiratory tract, sa ilong, sa lalamunan. No? Hindi masyado sa lungs. So that's why we don't really see a lot of more deaths lately. Mas nakakahawa siya, but seemingly it doesn't change the death rate.
The mutated virus has been predominant in Europe and some parts of Asia, but now it is in our shores. Ong said contact tracing efforts should be improved and basic health protocols should be strictly followed.
Mas importante ang face shields talaga ngayon. Lalabas ka, mag-face shield ka at mag-face mask dahil ang bagong strain na ito mas dumidikit sa'yo, no? Mas nakakahawa ka pa. So that's the reason why we see a lot of cases now.
The Health Department has already allowed the Genome Center to expand its research on the mutated strain. They're also reminding the public to take health safety measures more seriously to avoid being infected. For News 5, Romel Lopez, we are One News.
The Department of Health is reporting more than 3,000 additional COVID-19 cases over the past 24 hours. This brings total infections to more than 164,000. Active cases are now at 49,000, with new cases coming mostly from Metro Manila. Surrounding provinces in Luzon also reported at least 100 new infections. The death toll from the virus is now at 2,681, with the addition of 18 fatalities. At least 200 recoveries were also reported today, after yesterday's record high of 40,000 recoveries. And hours before President Duterte's announcement this evening, Metro Manila mayors are saying they are in favor of placing the National Capital Region again under general community quarantine. But they say it must be implemented with certain restrictions. Gerard de la Peña with a story.
Joel Bajola started cleaning up and fixing furniture pieces at the barbershop in Mandaluyong City where he works. He is hoping that the government will bring back Metro Manila to general community quarantine so we can open the barbershop again on Wednesday after 2 weeks of halting operations.
Sana balik operasyon na para may pamumuhay na kami.
Metro Manila mayors share Joel's sentiments. MMDA General Manager Jojo Garcia said the mayors recommend imposing GCQ in NCR, but they still want to impose some restrictions such as prohibiting the operations of dine-in restaurants and non-essential businesses such as salons and barbershops.
Of course, we understand that yung para sa ating ekonomiya. Pero kung tatanungin yung mga mayors talaga, tanggap namin kung mag-GCQ man, pero we want a stricter GCQ.
Metro Manila mayors want to impose a standard curfew of 8 p.m. to 5 a.m. as well as carry out localized lockdowns when necessary. It is up to the Transportation Department if it would allow jeepneys to operate again. Jeepneys were only allowed to ply the roads again in the latter part of June. The mayors also believe that the 2-week MECQ in Metro Manila and nearby provinces provided good results, like improved testing capacity. But healthcare professionals beg to differ. They said the imposition of MECQ is not enough, as the government has yet to impose mass testing and fix the mess over at PhilHealth.
Dahil na-lockdown ng mga, halimbawa yung magtatrabaho, wala silang available na transportation, even for our frontliners. Parang ang isang mahigpit na quarantine ay hindi na nangangailangan, kundi dapat ay tapatan ng mga sinasabi nga na pagkukulang.
It is up to the IATF if it will heed the call of the mayors. President Duterte is expected to announce the new quarantine status of NCR and nearby provinces tonight. For News 5, Gerard de la Peña, we are One News.
The PNP is once again denying an alleged social affair within their ranks over the weekend. There have been claims on social media that PNP Chief Archie Gamboa allegedly brought several police aides with him to Baguio City and that most did not go through standard checkpoints. Gamboa is denying the allegations and he adds that there was neither a party nor any concert that happened, as is spreading on social media, but he admits he had a dinner with a few people in which social distancing and other health protocols were observed, he said.
I don't know where the information came, no? But again, I vehemently deny that there was no party at the PNP cottage in Baguio City.
Malacanang said it is seeking the side of the PNP regarding the supposed concert party held in Baguio, but presidential spokesperson Harry Roque did note that Baguio City is under a more relaxed lockdown status, allowing more room for gatherings.
Ang Baguio City is under MGCQ, hindi po siya MECQ. So ang MGCQ allowed po up to 50% capacity. Kung hindi ako nagkakamali, no? Ang MGCQ like Baguio City. Pero titingnan po natin.
Interior Secretary Eduardo Año has tested positive for COVID-19 again. Año says he found out that he contracted the virus again after receiving his test results over the weekend. He is currently under isolation. Meanwhile, presidential spokesperson Harry Roque says he, along with other cabinet members, are now under self-quarantine after interacting with Año in the previous days. Roque, meanwhile, belied rumors that the president was flown by an air ambulance to Singapore over the weekend. The spokesperson insists the president is still healthy and is currently in so-called perpetual isolation in his home in Davao City.
Fake news po yung pag-alis ng Pilipinas ng ating presidente. Nananatili po siya sa Davao. Hindi po siya umalis ng Pilipinas. And his health is fine.
As proof that the president is still in the country, Senator Bongo uploaded a photo of the Duterte family sharing a meal in their home. President Duterte was with his daughter Veronica and his common-law wife Hanilet Avancenia, who was seen holding a newspaper released today. We'll pause for a short break, but when the big story returns, the lower house is pulling the plug on PhilHealth's interim reimbursement mechanism as more bogus COVID-19 claims are uncovered. And Filipinos out of jobs climbed to a record high in July. The Labor Department says it could get worse as the pandemic continues. I'm Robbie Alampay. You're watching The Big Story. PhilHealth continues to take a beating in Congress over alleged massive corruption hounding the agency. This time around, the House Committees on Public Accounts and Good Government have decided to suspend the release of PhilHealth interim reimbursement mechanism. Ria Fernandez gives us the full details.
The lower house probed into the legality of PhilHealth's use of its interim reimbursement mechanism for cash advances to non-COVID facilities. Cavite 4th District Representative P.D. Barzaga presented a list of dialysis centers that are IRM recipients. One was the Bron Avitum that got 45 million pesos for its 5 branches. House Public Accounts Chairperson Mike Defensor also mentioned about the 1.5 billion peso IRM releases to 51 hospitals with fraud cases. PhilHealth Executive Vice President and CEO Arnel De Jesus explained in the hearing that the IRM is not only meant for COVID-19 treatment.
IRM, siya po ay inihanda para sa magiging epekto ng COVID sa kabuuan ng health system. Yan po ay design para mabigyan ng pondo ang lahat ng klaseng pasilidad sa panahon na hindi pa alam kung ano po ang magiging epekto sa individual hospital o pasilidad.
But he said that PhilHealth can recall the cash advances by means of liquidation. Senior Deputy Majority Leader Boying Remulla pointed out that the release of IRM funds to non-COVID facilities can be considered technical malversation.
They're in the business of dispensing money.
Defensor also refuted De Jesus's explanation.
I have your minutes. Ang minutes yun nakalagay COVID. Si BM Mercado pa yung nag-point that it should be the biggest hospitals handling COVID patients, other hospitals handling COVID patients, and those facilities that are preparing to cater to COVID patients. Nowhere in these minutes and the circular na sinasabing pwedeng iba. May I return the...
Mr. Chairman,
in
other words, Mr. Chairman, in other words, pinaninindigan nyo na yung IRM pwede yung bigay kung kasino yung gusto bigyan kahit hindi COVID-related.
I will file a case against PhilHealth if you use your RIM for suspected cases. Because under your policy, it should be positive.
Meanwhile, Deputy Speaker Dan Fernandez questioned PhilHealth's lack of approval from the central bank in operating its auto credit payment system. He added that the state-run agency should do away with its practice of passing their request to several authorities before deciding on it.
This is a design for fraud. Sa gantong kahaba ng proseso, na nasa matter of fact, Mr. Chairman, nagtataka po tayo na yung kanilang mga responsibilities ay isa.
PhilHealth President Ricardo Morales was absent at the hearing. He said he had a nausea attack that made it hard for him to follow the discussion. Morales also said he underwent a chemotherapy last August 7. Despite his condition, Morales vowed to cooperate in the investigation. He also signed bank secrecy waivers along with 13 other PhilHealth officials to allow the Anti-Money Laundering Council to check their transactions. Likewise, PhilHealth's legal chief Jojo Del Rosario apologized to the joint panels for leaving last time after his blood pressure shot up. On the same occasion, lawmakers granted his request for an executive session. For News 5, Ria Fernandez, We Are One News.
Philippine Red Cross Chairman Senator Richard Gordon is calling out PhilHealth meanwhile for its debts amounting to more than 700 million pesos. Gordon warned that the PNRC may suspend its COVID-19 testing program if PhilHealth does not settle its liabilities soon. He said they cannot replenish their test kits if they cannot replenish their funds. Meanwhile, PALA spokesman Harry Roque asked Red Cross for more patience. He assured them that PhilHealth will prioritize this issue.
Let's just wait until they thresh out kung ano man yung nagiging problema ngayon sa PhilHealth. At sana po, tuloy-tuloy pa rin ang pagte-testing because we consider PNRC as a very important partner of government in the testing capacity.
The number of jobless Filipinos rose to a record high in July. That's according to a new SWS survey. But the government says this comes as no surprise. Shaila Francisco has this report.
These jeepneys and utility vans have not been on the road for 5 months now. Since March, Eric Tamayo, along with fellow jeepney and UV Express drivers, have not been able to work due to the suspension of public transportation. Aside from not receiving cash aid from the government for 5 months now, they say it's been difficult looking for alternative jobs.
Napakasakit naman po sa kanila na hindi sila matatanggap kasi yun lang talagang alam nilang trabaho. Paano po kami pantusos na yung pantusos sa aming mga pamilya tulad ng mga kuryente, mga ganyan, yung mga nagbabayad ng renta ng bahay. So Wala kami pagkukunan.
The situation has also not been easy for business development manager Rainzil Gascoy. The construction company he works for cannot determine yet when they will resume work. He didn't expect to be jobless this long, so he's now looking for sidelines to help him earn somehow.
Nawawala na rin kami ng pera, di ba? So, ayun, naghahanap ulit ako ng panibagong work. So far, mahirap talaga maghanap ng work ngayon.
According to the latest Social Weather Station survey, almost half of the adult labor force had been jobless in July this year. This represents an estimated 27.3 million adult Filipinos, a 28-point increase from December last year and new record high since March 2012. For Malacanang, the situation could have been worse.
Ako po'y nagagalak na hindi tayo 100% nawala ng trabaho. Kasi sa tagal po na naka-lockdown tayo, talagang I'm still surprised at our resilience at 4 to 5% pa lang po nawawala ng trabaho. It could have been worse kasi nga po, complete lockdown ang nangyayari sa atin.
However, Labor Group Kilosang Mayo Uno slammed the Duterte administration's apparent mishandling of the health crisis that has forced millions out of jobs. The group says because of this, there are renewed calls for the president to step down. But the Labor Department explains the increase in jobless Filipinos is to be expected since businesses are not yet 100% operational due to quarantine restrictions.
We can't actually say na it's over until the pandemic is there. Nag-on and off kasi yung ating pagbubukas ng ekonomiya.
With the pandemic far from over, Dole expects more job losses.
Ang reality in the labor market now is that there are a number of opportunities, but they are not sufficient to the number of the unemployed or those seeking employment.
Among the industries most affected by the crisis include accommodation and food services, administrative support and services, and others including computer repair shops, hairdressing, and beauty treatment. For now, affected workers can seek opportunity in the IT BPM, construction, and online sales industries. Shaila Francisco, BR1 News.
The labor sector was quick to comply with the government's new directive to wear face shields in workplaces, but some workers are asking who should shoulder the expenses to buy these equipment. Jenny Dongon with a story.
On its third day, the mandatory wearing of face shield in public places is quite a usual view, as most people on the streets were spotted wearing it, aside from face masks on an early morning rush hour. For Nora Jean, a salesman at a mall in Mandaluyong City, wearing a face shield is uncomfortable, but he has no choice but to comply with the new health protocol.
Okay lang po kasi para sa safety naman po namin. Tapos yung face shield naman kasi mamura naman eh. Unlike po before na umabot 100.
Christian, a utility worker, expressed the same sentiment, adding that wearing a face shield affects his work.
Mainit sa habang nagtatrabaho. Mainit sa mukha.
Pero no choice.
Oo, kasi mandatory. Wala tayong magagawa.
Some workers say their company shouldered expenses for the purchase of their face shields. But if the workers damage or break them, they would have to pay for its replacement. Over the weekend, the Labor and Trade Departments issued a memorandum requiring the use of face shields in workplaces. The face shield should cover the entire face and should extend to the ears and below the chin. Visors are not acceptable and shall not be allowed. Face shield and mask should always be worn together when interacting with colleagues, clients, and visitors. However, it can be removed as long as they are alone in their desk or cubicle. Cabinet Secretary and IATF co-chairperson Cardinal Nograles insist this new health protocol had undergone a thorough study and consultation among health experts.
Pagpakita sa amin ng mga scientists at epidemiologists, kung dadagdagan natin ito ng face shield, then aakyat sa 99% yung protection. Diba? Kung sabay yan, physical distancing, face mask, face shield.
Employees who will not comply with the new health protocol will face penalties, while businesses that will fail to follow or properly implement will be facing administrative sanctions. The Transportation Department, on the other hand, had also ordered the use of face shields in public transport, such as tricycles, as well as company shuttles. For News 5, Jenny Dongon, We Are One News.
The Department of Health is taking to task lawyer Larry Gadon for saying that wearing face masks is not effective to prevent the spread of COVID-19. Health Undersecretary Maria Rosario Vergeres stressed that Gadon's statement is not a joking matter. The lawyer was earlier spotted wearing a face shield with a surgical mask taped to its front. Gadon also claimed that COVID-19 is curable and the government is overreacting and giving in to paranoia.
Ganitong statements is not helping us at all. This is very para bang nakakaawa, no, yung mga healthcare workers natin, ano, na may isang kung sakali, no, na magkakaroon ng pagsunod ang mga tao dito sa mga sinasabi nitong nagsabi nito.
Presidential spokesman Harry Roque says Gadon's statement is his personal opinion, obviously not a scientific fact. He also underscored the importance of wearing face masks and face shields to prevent contracting the COVID-19 virus.
Hindi naman po doktor kasi si Larry Gadon, yan po panyero ko. So let that be his personal opinion. Alam na po natin yan sa buong mundo. Epektibo po ang pagsusot ng face mask, paghuhugas ng kamay, at pagso-social distancing.
And these are the other big stories today. The East Avenue Medical Center has converted a portion of its facilities to accommodate more COVID-19 patients. It has a 250-bed capacity and it can cater to severe and critical COVID-19 patients. The MVP group of companies has donated 45 million pesos worth of equipment to the facility, but EAME still needs more than 900 health workers to be fully operational. The Department of Education has announced that the incoming school year will last for 200 days. That's from October 5 to June 16, 2021. Christmas break for the upcoming school year will be from December 20 to January 3rd. Slain na Nakpawis chairperson and peace consultant Randall Echanis was laid to rest in Marikina this afternoon. Echanis was gunned down and stabbed to death by unknown assailants inside his rented house in Novaliches, Quezon City last week. His family and supporters vowed justice for him and to continue the fight for his advocacies.
Kung sa tingin ng mga pumaslang kay Tatang ay matatakot kami sa mensaheng kanilang ginawa, kung gaano kabrutal na pinatay nila si Tatang at kami ay aatras at matatakot. Mamayang agad, no, pag-uusapan namin ang mga hakbang para kamtin, no, ang proseso ng pagkakamit ng hustisya.
Coming up on the big story, hundreds of Filipinos in Lebanon have been repatriated after the deadly explosion in Beirut. That and more after the break. This is the big story. I'm Robbie Alampay. President Duterte briefly addressed the nation in a short video posted this evening. In the video posted on Senator Bongo's Facebook account, the president reminded the public to follow minimum health standards like wearing face masks and washing of hands. He also disputed rumors that he left the country to seek medical treatment in Singapore.
Wash your hands, wear a mask, cover your eyes, and stay home. That's what I did. nandito po ako sa Sabang. Huwag ko kayo maniwala.
Around 300 Filipinos in Lebanon have been repatriated today, almost 2 weeks after the massive explosion in Beirut. The remains of 4 Filipinos who died in the blast have also been brought home. Marian Enriquez with this report.
63-year-old Pedro Cerojijos still can't believe what happened to her 28-year-old daughter as he awaits her remains at the Naiya cargo warehouse. Babylin is among the 4 Filipinos who died in the Beirut port explosion last August 4. She is survived by her 2 children, a 4-year-old and an 11-year-old.
Para kung binagsak ka ng langit, lang sinasabi ko na, Panginoon, sugatan mo na lang siya. Huwag na namang patayin.
Upon seeing the casket, Tatay Pedro burst out in tears. Foreign Affairs Secretary Teodoro Locsin Jr. was also emotional when he welcomed the 410 OFWs who were repatriated.
Thank you for the honor of serving you. Thank you.
One of the OFWs who arrived today is Ursula Gira, who we got to interview when she still had fresh wounds due to glass window shards that hit her face. She showed her face now healed.
Nakakatrauma yung pagsabog na yon. Parang ayoko na uli bumalik doon.
Meanwhile, Reginald, who still has bandages in his body, said he is very much happy that he's now back home.
Naisip ko nga bigay ito ng Diyos ng parang second life ko.
All the repatriated OFWs undergone swabbing for the PCR test. They were brought to an OWA hotel quarantine facility as they await for the result of their tests, which will take 3 to 8 days. If found negative, the OWA will shoulder their transportation and bring them to their respective homes.
Simple lang ang direktiba ni Pangulo, gawin ng lahat para tulungan ang mga OFWs at kanilang mga pamilya. So nandito tayo, full support.
Repatriated OFWs will also receive 10,000 financial assistance under the ACA program and livelihood assistance, while to those who died like Babylin, OWA will provide death and burial benefits, as well as livelihood and scholarship for their families. For News 5, Marian Enriquez, we are One News.
China has granted its first COVID-19 vaccine patent. The adenovirus vector vaccine, or AD5-nCoV, was developed by China's Military Sciences Academy and Chinese biotech firm CanSino. It uses weakened common cold virus to introduce genetic material from the novel coronavirus into the human body. The goal is to train the body to produce antibodies that would recognize the COVID-19 protein spike and fight it off. Phase 3 clinical trials are currently in the pipeline involving participants overseas. Experts have called the Chinese vaccine promising in terms of safety and potency against COVID-19. And that wraps up today's big story. Catch us again tomorrow, 8 p.m., signal channels 8 and 250. Please like our Facebook page, One News. For more in-depth analysis, you can visit our webpage. That's onenews.ph. You can also catch One News on the Signal Play app. Register for a free account now at signalplay.com and stream One News live anytime, anywhere. I'm Robbie Alampay, and we are One News. Good evening.